Welcome back, everyone. My name is Patrick. You're watching the Oilers Rundown, and it is a very special Oilers Rundown today, joined by Tyson from Dolany TV. Tyson, thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you for giving me a place to stay tonight. I appreciate that on my way up to Cold Lake. Obviously, for those of you that have been following along my kind of past week, I've been talking about that finally happening, and you're part of the journey today for some special reasons we won't get into tomorrow.
Yeah, until tomorrow.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. And this episode is not sponsored by Bubbly, but, you know, it made its way in the video there. Just thought I'd mention that.
You cleaned up the entire set except that, so.
Well, it's a hot day today. You need a drink. Anyway, we got a lot of topics to cover here, so let's get right to it. We'll forget about the Bubbly for right now. A lot of things to talk about. Evan Bouchard here has been a topic for quite a while. We've been waiting for a brand new extension. There's been talk of a 4-year deal, an 8-year deal. The latest on Elliot Friedman. There seems to be a lot of confidence over the weekend that they're going to get this sorted out. I wonder if it's going to be around 4 times $9.5 million. That's just numbers being thrown around. So what do you think about 4 years, $9.5 million, Tyson?
Bob's been promising us it's going to be in the 10-point-something range, so
Yeah.
9.5 sounds like a deal to me. I think I said it to you just as we were queuing up for this video. It's kind of one of those things. If you can save $1 million on Bouchard for the next year, or next year, next 4 years, whatever it is, compared to that 10-point-something, that's an extra forward. That's massive. That's huge money in kind of the Oilers cap space at least, so I'll take it.
Well, definitely, and we're going into free agency here where the Oilers are hoping to do some damage. But before we get to that, we had a couple notes on the coaching changes now for the Edmonton Oilers. Elliot Friedman reported on 32 Thoughts that the Oilers are considering a goalie coach change. I know that is music to a lot of ears in oil country.
Only took 10 years.
Yeah, well, yeah, and there's going to be also another change, at least one other change on the coaching staff. There was an announcement last night regarding changes to the coaching staff. We found out today that Glenn Gulutzan has been offered the head coaching position with the Dallas Stars. So it sounds like at the very least, Glenn Gulutzan and Dustin Schwartz are on their way out, possibly Mark Stewart as well. I would think Paul Coffey's sticking around. What do you think, Tyson?
The only thing I foresee is, if Mark Stewart doesn't leave town, and I doubt he gets a promotion to kind of where Paul Coffey's at. But I know Paul Coffey there at the end of last year was kind of unsure for a few weeks what he was going to do. I wonder if that's maybe going to be the case here over the summer again, where maybe he thinks about going back to that high-level position in the organization. But again, for him, if you change out the other three, I don't think anything you can necessarily pin on Paul Coffey. And at times, really for the Oilers, Paul Coffey was the lone coach kind of holding steady on his job. You think goaltending was a disaster last year. You had the power play again following the Dallas and Florida series the year before, sputtering almost all year. I get that Bouchard didn't have his production. I know that Draisaitl and McDavid missed 10-plus games each. That'll affect numbers for sure.
Absolutely.
But really, when you look at it, Mark Stewart, who, again, like I'm saying, shouldn't get a promotion based on his results. The penalty kill, yeah, I get we changed out some key pieces, was a grade A disaster this year. And it extended into the playoffs. Did it doom the Oilers ultimately? Well, kind of in conjunction with some other stuff, but you got to figure if anyone's going to stick around, even if Mark Stewart sticks around, Paul Coffey would definitely still be here.
Yeah, I think he's the safest bet to return, and I guess we'll find out for sure. I'm guessing early next week. Maybe after July 1st. I guess they might want to get that out of the way first. But, yeah, I think Paul Coffey's the safest one. With how the power play struggled, with how the penalty kill struggled, definitely can see some changes happening there. And the power play used to be this team's bread and butter. And, even last year, the penalty kill was outstanding.
Yeah.
I think they gave up, 4 or 5 goals the whole playoff run?
Wow, and the thing is, yes, I know we changed out some pieces. I know Nugent Hopkins had a broken hand in the Cup final.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't excuse the massive drop-off. You still had Matthias Janmark. You still had Adam Henrique. You had Nugent Hopkins healthy for 3 rounds. Those numbers are not a reflection of just the Cup final.
No. And for the goalie coach, I've always said this team goes through coaches like absolute crazy, But the goalie coach, for whatever reason, whether it's a connection to the Keats family or whatever excuse you want to use, has been untouchable. And this is a change. I think this is long, long overdue for this team. Everyone wants a brand new goaltender brought in, and we'll get to that. But I think a goalie coach is definitely the way to start here, and really excited to see who it could possibly be.
Well, I think one idea that maybe Oilers fans that follow Bakersfield would have, I don't know what kind of contract he's on, but 2 years ago we had Ollie Rodriguez's dad as goalie coach down in Bakersfield. He kind of ended up stalled out in the organization because of Dustin Schwartz and kind of the Oilers refusing to move on from him, as you alluded to.
Yeah.
So he took a job over with the Charlotte Checkers, who, again, if you've been following the AHL this summer, finished runner-up to the Abbotsford Canucks in the Calder Cup Finals. So one would think Sylvain's probably looking for a job at the NHL level, and it would be because it was a lateral move, AHL to AHL. If the contract isn't an issue, I could see him being a serious contender for that job. Because, again, friends, for those of you that know Sylvain's body of work in Bakersfield, there's a reason Stuart Skinner has gotten to where he is today. And I'm not talking the negative, I'm talking the NHL starter position, because he was a key piece of that development.
Yeah, I always thought he was a contender for sure. I know there was a lot of talk about Mike Smith a couple of years ago.
There was, yeah.
Dwayne Rolliston, I think, is free out there as well. So, not that it has to be a former Edmonton Oiler that does it, but just a couple of names that I've heard.
That's our way of doing things, though,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, the Old Boys Club is now guys from the 2000s. That seems a little crazy. Where's Ryan Smith going to move into things eventually?
Yeah. And Ian Clark, I believe is his name, with the Vancouver Canucks.
Yep.
He left the Canucks last season, I believe. I think he'd probably be another strong contender. He did some excellent work with Vancouver's netminders, Jacob Markstrom, Thatcher Demko. So
Archer
Shilovs, yeah. So, yeah, he's another guy that I would definitely be interested in for that position. So we'll see what happens there, but I'll keep going here because we got a lot of topics to get to.
I did joke this was going to be a 38-minute video, so.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep it to 37 minutes for you guys. So the next topic I want to cover, Brock Besser. I've done this one over my last couple of videos.
Wait, you want to go back-to-back on the Canucks?
Well, it's got to be a Canucks theme here. Might as well keep it going.
The views are going to be good.
So Elliot Friedman's quote from 32 Thoughts this morning. I don't think the idea is wrong. I don't think that's impossible that Besser would consider Edmonton if they can make it work. Insider David Pagnotta from the fourth period has also mentioned Brock Besser possibly coming to Edmonton. Obviously, it's not a foregone conclusion. There'll be a lot of teams in on Besser. The Oilers have to find a way to clear some cap space here. I think Besser would probably at least be 6 or 7.
You'd have to figure
if not a little bit more than that. So he's a guy I would be extremely excited to get. I think he'd be a fantastic addition to the top 6. What do you think, Tyson?
Well, I think it comes down to one thing. Where does Besser fit?
I think second line with Draisaitl.
Who's there right now?
Well, we got Hyman. Well, nobody now.
Well, there's a guy we got to trade out of there still.
Well, Arvidsson.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
That's what I mean. I think.
I'm thinking Arvidsson's already gone.
Yeah, that's just
I'm
it.
like, who are you alluding to there?
I think it's a very natural fit based on you had a guy that you wanted to do that job. Again, I think Arvidsson's results would have been a lot better last year had he not had that injury 5 or 6 games into the season, whatever it was. When you miss 15 games, when you have a disaster class preseason that the Oilers did, again, the outright refusal to take it seriously was, as you and I saw live a couple times, not so great. But really, Brock Besser, I think, again, if you're looking at, you thought Arvidsson was the solution, you're going to pay $2.5 million, $3 million more for Brock Besser. I think you're going to get what you want.
Yeah, I think Victor Arvidsson, Jeff Skinner, they were supposed to be the solutions last year for the Oilers, and clearly neither guy worked out when neither guy is a regular in the lineup in the Stanley Cup playoffs when the Oilers are dealing with injuries as well. So hopefully Brock Besser, if he comes in, can be that solution for the Oilers in the top 6. I know they've been connected to a few other guys as well. Andrew Mangiapane, Matthias Michelli from the Utah Mammoth as a possible trade target. So
that name appeals because that's, again, a guy kind of, I don't exactly know his age, but he's on the younger side of things, kind of already had his upswing. So that's where it's a known commodity that should get better playing alongside Draisaitl.
I believe he's 25, 26.
Oh, that's
Here,
perfect.
Let me see if I can confirm.
Does he move fast out there?
No.
Oh, well, that ain't going to appeal to very many people then.
24, even younger.
Dang,
even
okay.
younger. So, yeah, Matthias Michelli would definitely be somebody that would be of interest there to the Edmonton Oilers. You'd have to think if they do possibly strike out on Brock Besser, Andrew Mangiapane, who are both free agents. So I think that covers them. Pierre LeBrun put out that Corey Perry still hopes to re-sign in Edmonton, but the pathway to common ground on a deal has been difficult with the Oilers' cap situation. Very possible that Perry ends up on the free agent market come Tuesday, but the door remains open with Edmonton. So Corey Perry, to me, is a player I would love to have back, but at the rumored price tag of $2.5 million, that's too much for me. I think if you started at 1.5, put in some bonus structure in there, that's something I could definitely live with. Corey Perry is a guy I would like to keep around, but it has to be at a certain price, and I think the Edmonton Oilers are of the same thought process here. What are your thoughts, Tyson?
I think it's an idea you do exactly what you did last year, which is exactly what you alluded to there. But again, how much easier does that get if you get Bouchard for 9.5 versus 10 point something, right? If you're missing on that 2.5 number, the extra million, and I'm not saying sign him to 2.5, but I'm talking, if it's a decision between signing to 1.5 and give him the bonuses, and then all of a sudden you're up there possibly, it's a lot easier to get to that 1.5 when you've got $1 million in savings elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Than it is to just straight up spend that 1.5 on Corey Perry. Again, love him. I agree with everything you said, but we need to get younger. We need to get faster in the bottom six. And unless you have Zach Hyman go down in the Stanley Cup playoffs again next year, his value next year, again, year after year, just diminishes little by little because of speed, because of obviously the ability to play the big minutes too. The body just can't take them.
And the odds are he's not going to get 19 goals again or 9 or 10 goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, hats off to Corey Perry. He was absolutely outstanding. Like I said, I love him. I want to keep him on the team, but it has to be at a certain price. So hopefully they can find that common ground there before July 1st or shortly thereafter if Corey Perry takes a look at the market and says, you know what, I'll take a little less to stay with Edmonton.
Yeah, and that is, of course, I think the one big thing I see on Perry is if he's wanting 2.5, how many teams are going to go out there and say, hey, we want you for 2.5? How many teams are going to go possibly past the second round in the playoffs that say, I want you for 2.5? How many teams are even going to make the playoffs that say they want him for 2.5?
Exactly.
The Oilers, they could probably even, if he gets out there and he's trying to hold out for top dollar, and I'm sure his agent's probably telling him, hey, take one last big contract, cash in off a good year, I get it. But the Oilers, if they really play this smart and find some, again, we did it with Connor Brown, some interesting bonus structure stuff, you could probably even get him for league minimum before the CBA changes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that was pretty much all the latest from today. There was a development goaltending-wise. Anaheim signing Ville Husso to a new 2-year extension worth $2.2 million.
Okay.
So the Ducks acquiring Peter Mrazek from Detroit yesterday in the John Gibson deal. So that now gives them Mrazek, Husso, and Dostal in net. So does one of those guys shake loose? And what do the Edmonton Oilers have to give Anaheim to get Dostal?
To get Dostal. I think of those three guys, that is the only one that is not available.
Yes, I know.
But definitely Anaheim has been kind of an enigma with goaltending since they made the move for Husso at the deadline last year, right? You didn't quite know what they were doing. They had him down in the minor leagues. And again, Husso, friends, if you remember back 3 summers ago now, was the other half of the Jack Campbell coin. It was kind of, you had a toss-up for the Oilers organization, and I think Detroit moved fast on that, is you had Husso and Campbell available. The Oilers, because of, poaching ex-Maple Leafs, were very much so appearing to be in on Campbell. Ultimately, they were $25 million in on Campbell, but Husso was another option, ultimately lands in Detroit. And I know we talked about this last week, kind of how how could have that played out differently if they would have swapped spots? Because I'm sure for Detroit, being in a similar situation to us, might have thought about Campbell. Probably not for $5 million. That's why we got him. But again, I think it turns out not necessarily drastically different because Jack Campbell's in Detroit now, so or he was up until free agency hits. But I think it turns out a little different if the Oilers had assigned Husso and Campbell had gone to Detroit for both goalies in a good, better way.
Well, with Husso, definitely, and it really came down to, in the end, after Husso went to Detroit, between Darcy Kemper and Jack Campbell, and I think we all would have liked to have seen the Darcy Kemper story over the Jack Campbell one.
Yeah, that's the other side of that is Darcy Kemper. I think that one really was a kick in the teeth a little bit based on, signing Campbell for $5 million and being like, oh, we're in fully, all the chips are on the table here, and we just gotta hope it works. And unfortunately, the Oilers for the past 15 years have been kind of in that hope it works mentality. And as we see, we're starting to get out of it a little by little, but it was a big gamble that did not pay off there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So just before we wrap up here, just wanted to double check nothing else is breaking.
Did I see something for Claude Giroux there?
Yeah, Claude Giroux, he's re-signed a 1-year, $2 million deal with Ottawa, so he's sticking around there.
Hold on. I think that reads that kind of the exact same thing we were talking about Corey Perry. $2 million deal, but it's up to 4.75.
Yeah, max value of 4.75 with bonuses. So I don't think you have to give Corey Perry anywhere near much. But obviously, like you're saying, and I mentioned earlier, 1.5, bring it up to potentially 2.5 with achievable bonuses. So we'll see what happens there with Corey Perry, but I think that kind of covers everything else for now. Just to wrap up here, Tyson, goaltending is obviously a huge debate. Everyone wants a brand new goaltender. Who would you go after knowing who is left out there? Or would you just stay put with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard?
I think the safe option is to stay put. Again, if you're changing out Dustin Schwartz, that's half the equation. Again, is being safe the smartest option? That's what'll have to be weighed, and I think Stan Bowman's got a lot of work to do here over the next 48 hours, kind of weighing that. Trade market developing as well into July 1st and July 2nd. I don't know what the big chip to fall that'll kind of shift the landscape and make everything move will be. You think maybe that was John Gibson, again, setting the market for an elite value goaltender. Again, it's tough because obviously they traded a goaltender back, gave up some picks that we just don't have, stuff like that. But really, I think Jeremy Swayman, until the Bruins decide fully, and I think July 1st, like I'm saying, might be that chip to fall. If the Bruins decide, hey, no, we're just going to quickly sign some guys in free agency, get back into the 6-7 seed in the Atlantic, and just be happy with making playoffs, I think that gives you the clear direction that the Oilers probably will have to do the safe thing and stay put. Again, Jeremy Swayman's at 8 point whatever, and it's a big contract to swallow up. But with John Gibson in Detroit and really nothing else that you want on the free agent market, we talked about Jake Allen. Your thoughts on Jake Allen? I don't know what you've put on the channel here while I've been out in Sundry, but honestly, Jake Allen's just a side grade compared to what we got. So Jeremy Swayman being probably the last big fish left, depending on the direction of the Boston Bruins. Safe, might not be smart, but it's safe.
Yeah, I would stay away from Jake Allen just because he is the top dog. Just shows you how bad the market is going into free agency. No disrespect to Jake Allen, but if he's the number one goaltender available, the goaltending market is very weak, and I don't want to overpay Jake Allen. If you were getting Jake Allen at a $2 million price tag or something like that, that's something I would definitely entertain, but I don't want him at $4 or $5 million, even on a couple-year deal. So, like you said, Tyson, let's see what shakes out here. Does something happen with Jeremy Swayman? Does the internet go nuts and Ilya Sorokin ends up going somewhere?
That one I know you've talked to me about. I just don't. I don't see how that happens.
I highly doubt that. No, there was just some talk that the Islanders were maybe doing a soft rebuild and maybe Sorokin shakes loose there, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think until the Bruins really come out and say that Jeremy Swayman's not available, I think that talk will probably continue. But at the same time, he's also unlikely to move there. So we'll have to see what shakes loose. Like I said, I don't really have one guy in particular. I mean, there's guys that I was interested in the past, like Anton Forsberg.
Yep.
He's continued to have a strong save percentage, but obviously Anton Forsberg is not coming in here to take the number one job or anything like that. Is he an upgrade on Calvin Pickard? Probably a bit.
Yep.
But
if he stays healthy, but again,
yeah.
Playing for the Oilers, he should be able to avoid some of that contact in the crease.
But at the same time, if you have to sign Forsberg for $2.5 million, is he a $1.5 million upgrade on Calvin Pickard? That's the things you got to look at, right? So as painful as it might be, I think the Oilers will do something with the goaltending at minimum before next year's trade deadline, but I will not be totally shocked if we go through the summer and Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard are still the Oilers goaltenders. But like I said, we'll see what shakes loose here over the next couple days. So I think I'll wrap it up there for now. We're not quite at 39 minutes, or 37 minutes, whatever it was. We'll wrap it up there for now, guys. But any final thoughts there, Tyson?
I think just, again, we were kind of conditioned towards the draft for absolute chaos. We didn't get it. Now, what we know from an Oilers perspective, last year the draft wasn't chaos. And then July 1st was every 30 minutes, it's go, 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 go. There's somebody new signed. Again, the Oilers had a lot of UFAs that stuck around, so that kind of helped the chaos a bit. But July 1st down on the beach in Cold Lake could be a long day spent on the phone as well. Kind of, Elliot Friedman always shares his phone activity metrics after every big day in the NHL. I think that might be a day for us just the same.
Absolutely. So where can people find you, Tyson?
On Dolany TV, but this weekend up at Kinnasoo Beach in Cold Lake, friends. If you know, you know. Cold Lake's a beautiful place in the summertime, and July 1st is really a big day. But yes, Dolany TV here on YouTube. Patrick was kind enough to have me along today. Thank you for obviously also letting me kind of cut the drive in half. That is the big key to this video, is Patrick's letting me crash on the bed in the spare room and just allow me to enjoy a day back kind of home in Edmonton, for those that watch the channel as well. Edmonton was home for a couple of years while I went and got this whole education thing done. So, yeah, it's nice to be back.
Well, pleasure having you. And if you're looking for more content with Tyson and I, we will be on the Heavy Hockey Network tonight at 9 p.m. Mountain for Oilers Live. So you can look forward to that. And otherwise, as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button for more Oilers content for me. You've been watching the Oilers Fanatic. Thanks for being a fan. See you soon, guys.
We're up on. Out of here.